In Chile, the government is invoking a controversial anti-terrorist law as investigators search for those behind two bombings in 2 days. The explosions happened just days before the anniversary of Chile's 1973 military coup. CCTV's Joel Richards joins us now from Santiago with more. Joel.
Evening, Elaine. Well, certainly here there's still no news in terms of who was responsible for the bombing so far this week. Today there's been a trickle of news of alerts and many false alarms. Many subway stations have been temporarily closed as people have been calling in with having seen suspicious packages. But so far, though, no news in terms of that. Of course, all of this, though, really adding a great deal of tension ahead of tomorrow's anniversary of the 1973 coup, which brought in a dictatorship with thousands of victims in Chile. Many were here at the National Stadium, where I'm stood just outside, and many detained here at the National Stadium. So a very emotive day for Chile, and of course, and given this week's bombings and this heightened sense of really insecurity, making it a very difficult way to go into this commemoration, which of course happens tomorrow.
It may seem like a normal day, but this is where Chile's worst bomb attack in over 20 years took place on Monday. 14 people were injured. Outside the military school station, students said the attack has put the country on edge.
People are alert. They're alert, but I'm not sure if they're afraid. Some of the media here exaggerated, I think. They say that fear had returned to the country.
There are a few reasons to explain this incident. Tomorrow is the 41st anniversary of September 11th, 1973. Or people disagree with the government and use these differences between people and the government to do things like this. But there is no justification for these kinds of things.
It's been 2 days since the bomb at the station just here behind me. Now, for many people, they've carried on just as normal. But in these last 2 days, there have also been alerts at many other stations across the city.
On Tuesday, several stations were closed due to threats, and another small bomb in nearby Viña del Mar was also reported. Temporary closures of subway stations continued on Wednesday. Chile President Michelle Bachelet said her government is treating Monday's blast as an act of terrorism.
We're not going to let a small group of terrorists and cowards affect the lives of a vast majority of men and women who want for themselves and their families a country that is prosperous, united, and peaceful.
Chile now says it will seek help from abroad to find those responsible. Monday's bombing was the first to cause injuries, but it's the 29th bombing to target Santiago so far this year. Thursday's remembrance of the coup that forced Salvador Allende from power will take place with the backdrop of uncertainty about public safety. Joel Richards, CCTV, Santiago.
So, Elaine, you mentioned there the very controversial anti-terrorist law. This is a law for which Chile has been highly criticised, especially in the United Nations, for its use against the Mapuche movement. And, of course, it's also a law which was brought about by the dictatorship, which, of course, tomorrow is being commemorated. So its use now, ahead of these commemorations for another anniversary of the coup d'etat here in Chile, is, of course, very controversial.
And Joel, that being said, with all that's been happening there, what are people expecting to happen tomorrow?
Well, historically, Elaine, this is a date which has really divided Chilean society. The views of Chileans and many Chileans about the dictatorship, which ended just in 1990, is still very divided. So it's a day which historically has had clashes. At the weekend, there were demonstrations where there were also clashes. So, of course, this has very much heightened the tension ahead of what is a date which is historic and very important for, not least, of course, the victims of the dictatorship. So, very much a heightened sense of uncertainty and tension ahead of what is such an important date in Chilean history.
All right, CCTV's Joel Richards reporting live from Santiago, Chile.